Action Film Autopsy.
What up, everyone? DJ Anubis here with you in the Metal Town Radio podcast, here with my co-host, Kung Fu Santa himself, author Ric Meyers.
Hello, everybody.
We once again, I fill in for that fat samurai guy to take over. I'm just taking it over. Fuck it.
That's right. Come on, let's go. Let's go, everybody. More the merrier, as I always
Yes.
say.
So we're here, and you're going to be talking some films and shows that you've been watching, and I think you're going to be catching us up on Agatha All Along. I know we talked about that in the last
that was a
episode,
leftover.
so I'm assuming the series is over now for the first season.
The series is over. They had the last 2 episodes in November. And as I said, if you go back and watch what I said in the last episode, I said it all depends on whether or not they nail the landing. Because as far as I'm concerned, it doesn't matter how good the first part of the TV show or the movie is if they don't nail the landing. Again, I brought it up last month too. It's like Lost and Game of Thrones. It was, I really, 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 really enjoyed it until the end, or even How I Met Your Mother. I really enjoyed it until the end. And then they, not only do they not nail the landing, but they go right on their face or right on their head. And they didn't quite do that with Agatha, but they got close.
Okay, that's pretty good.
Agatha was a classic bait and switch. In other words, the first, I can't remember how many episodes there were, but there were 2 more left after, at the beginning of November. And so everything prior to that, whether it was 6 episodes or 4, whatever number of episodes, was all very interesting. Great cast, very intriguing. The reason we put this poster up is because the show is called Agatha All Along, but the bait and switch has nothing to do with Agatha. It's all about him.
Oh.
And he was the main character all along.
Huh.
And so the whole thing is kind of like, you think it's going to be about this, but it's not about this. And also, even though it is all about him, there's another phrase in addition to bait and switch that I can't remember now, but basically what it is it's much ado about nothing. They're big build up, and then it's like, and this, and it was all about him all along. Goodbye, everybody. And it's like, so I watched this whole thing, and that's what you left me with. So it was very disappointing. So when I heard that it wasn't going to be renewed, I reacted the way I usually react when I'm watching a reality show, which was, oh, that's a big surprise.
So it does the switcheroony, and then I didn't even know they announced already that it wasn't going to be renewed. So did the ratings tank?
I don't know. I didn't. Once it disappointed me, I didn't care about the rest of the world. Whatever. And as I think I've mentioned on the show and to you numerous times, the population is such of the world and the country is such that no matter what movie or television show you put out, there will be millions who love it, there will be millions who hate it, and there will be millions in between. And now that movies and television are struggling to survive or get as much money as they used to make as much money as they used to make, it's now, and also because social media is so eminently corruptible, just so incredibly easy to corrupt. At this point, I don't trust anything anymore. I don't trust myself because I've betrayed myself in the past. But now, when even critics, I saw a friend of mine put out a review of one of the movies we'll be talking about this episode, and it was like, I didn't recognize it. It was like, what? You felt that about this? And then I sort of went, oh, he's getting paid off too. Because that's another great thing about TikTok and I don't know about great, but that's another thing about TikTok and social media is not only is it's corruptible, but the payments are many. There are many kind of payments, and they're very easy for the people who want you to say a certain thing. When I was coming up as a movie reviewer, there was a very famous critic who didn't exist. He had a fake name, but he was there to be paid. It was a company where the studios of the network could pay them off, and this critic, who didn't exist, would say whatever they wanted to say. And at that time, they didn't have that many critics, so they got away with it for a while. But that
Yeah, I've
hasn't
heard that,
changed.
because just in general, like, in order to stay within the network of, like, whether you're a movie reviewer or music or whatever, like, if you're somebody that's going to kind of toe that line, they're going to be like, yeah, we'll invite you out, or you can come see pre-screen
Bingo.
or whatever.
That's
Yeah.
right. That's what I remember. They're able to pay off influences without using money by just
Yeah.
inviting them to premieres and bringing them to parties and spreading their influence around. So yeah, that's exactly what's going on. So, so all people out there, my dear fans, my dear friends, my dear haters, everybody, the only person you can trust, because I'm not going to tell you what you think. I'm only going to tell you what I think. And I'm going to tell you honestly what I think, not what I was, because I'm not an influencer. I'm just an old Santa. I'm an old Sifu Santa who likes to tell you what I think. And we're going to be getting into some of that on this episode as well, behind the scenes stuff, and why did this movie or television show turn out the way it did. I think Agatha turned out the way it did because since when Bob Iger left Disney originally, and the other Bob came in, Bob Chapek, he started having negative influence on everything he touched, including Kevin Feige. And they started doing all these television shows, and they started spreading themselves so thin that nobody could control it. And they lost. This is something that's been going on for a long time, even since I was in college, which is no one teaches story structure anymore.
Right.
And usually the thing I find wrong with virtually all of these things, including Agatha All Along, is that they don't seem to understand story structure. They don't seem to understand how to satisfy their audience. They build up and they build up and they build up, and then they fail at the end. They do not nail the landing because we want to do something different. We're going to try to, outthink the audience and give the audience what it's want, not realizing that the audience has always wanted what the audience will always want, which is something that's tickles their brain. The great thing about the brain is it doesn't need you to enjoy itself. This is why Jeopardy and Wheel of Fortune is still on the air, because it entertains the brain without you being involved. A lot of people going, I don't know why I'm still watching this. Well, your brain knows why, because it's all the puzzle pieces are fitting in together. In the case of Jeopardy and Wheel of Fortune, literally the puzzle pieces are fitting together. So
they don't get cute with it. They just do what they do, and people still eat it up. So
and they pay it off. Their satisfaction. And again, look at Jeopardy and Wheel of Fortune. They are two extremely simple games. It's Hangman, and it's but they're puzzles. And answering questions and giving the correct answer to questions, but they do it reverse, supposedly whatever. But it's always satisfying for your brain because it gives you something. It sets something up, and then it pays something off.
Now, if I recall, you did like WandaVision, right?
I did like WandaVision.
So okay, so yeah, so this one fell short for you.
Yes, this is a sequel again, but WandaVision was. But what I liked WandaVision, but I didn't like Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. I didn't like Agatha All Along because those were the two payoffs for WandaVision.
Right.
Now, supposedly they're going to do a more direct WandaVision payoff with the new Vision, the white
white
Vision.
one, yeah.
But we'll see what happens, because at this point, Star Wars and Marvel are still struggling to get where they were before Bob Chapek took over.
I'm already hearing horror stories about the new Captain America one. So
oh yeah, several reshoots and all the rest of it, and we'll see about this new Star Wars. I mean, I like the actor, I like the idea of it, and I'm hoping that, of course, the Mandalorian movie works, because I think the director and creator of that is the only one who is not under the thumb of Kathleen Kennedy. He does what he wants to do he doesn't have to follow her rules.
So, now, do you think in your opinion, the Mandalorian? Do you think it can succeed without Grogu, or do you think it has to have Grogu in it?
Oh, I don't know. Grogu to me doesn't. Grogu, the Mandalorian succeeded before Grogu showed up. Grogu showed up, I think, in the second or third season. And if I'm wrong, of course, my
Oh no,
wonderful
no, yeah, no. Grogu is the little Yoda.
right, I know, but he
Oh, yeah,
showed.
he was in the first season.
He
That's
was
who
in
he
the
was
first season.
protecting. Oh yeah,
All right. Okay.
yeah,
Well, no, I don't. Another character could be created. I don't think anything completely rests. Grogu right now, they're a wonderful combination, but I see the end of that story being that Grogu goes off on his own. But we'll see.
yeah.
But the point is, it's not so much that I trust in Grogu. I trust in the writer director of The Mandalorian, who's smart and introduced Grogu. And if he
Correct.
can create Grogu, he can create other things too, as long as he's
Hmm.
not interfered with. But enough of Agatha. Agatha's off. Let's get on to the films and the shows that we're doing. And this has been a very, very interesting November. First, we'll talk about. We're going to jump on to. I'm wearing my
Hiya!
my shirt because we're jumping onto the Haya channel, and we're talking about a show that I thought they released last year. I showed a clip of this at last year's not Action Film Autopsy, last year's Kung Fu Extravaganza at the San Diego Comic-Con. And so I thought it's been on Haya for a long time. It's the Tai Chi Master. It's not the Jet Li Tai Chi Master. It's the direct-to-streaming Tai Chi Master with Yu Wu. The guy who plays the Tai Chi Master in this is in his 50s. I don't know
Oh
if he's
wow.
playing a guy in his 50s because he looks old in the show, but he's also this is some of the first times he's been acting. Up until now, he's been a producer, and he produced Ip Man 4 with Donnie Yen. But now he's starring in this thing, and he apparently loves Tai Chi. You can see from the show, but also he loves just screwing around. One of the delights of the Tai Chi Master is it's all over the place. I mean, it just every single sequence seems to have it's the director Chang Si Yi, who just does a lot of these streaming movies. He's part of the younger crowd. Yu Wu, the star, is in his 50s, close to 60. So he's not a new guy, but I think he's helping all these new 30-year-old directors and stars and stuff and writers find stuff to do with. So Tai Chi Master is delightful as long as you don't insist on it being consistent in tone from sequence to sequence.
Yeah.
But there are delights in every sequence, no matter what the tone is. It's just like all these streaming movies. It's beautifully produced, beautiful costumes, beautiful sets, large casts, and here they have legitimate Tai Chi in the show. I've been studying Tai Chi since 2000, and I recognize, and we'll be talking a lot about this in a couple of minutes, about the fact that the difference between martial arts styles. The more you know, it's like learning a language. The more you know Spanish, the more you know French, the more you know Chinese, the more you know Russian, the better it gets. You're able to understand more and more and more. And since our country has been, and we'll be getting into this pretty heavily in this episode, has always been under the delusion that martial arts is kung fu and kung fu is martial arts, which is true to a degree. But for the most part, no, kung fu is different than martial arts. Very different. It's the difference between one thing and six things. Because again, martial arts is one thing, fighting. Kung fu is six things, at least six, probably more. So when we get into Tai Chi Master, Tai Chi, and also when we get all martial arts and all kung fu are the human body, the human mind, the world around them. However, when you get into kung fu, martial arts is fighting, closed fists for the most part, except for maybe Aikido. But most of it is, badassery. Kung fu, each one of the families, as I said, everything in life is the human body, the human mind, the world around them. The rest is money and ego. And that's especially true of how martial arts and kung fu is taught. It's mostly money and ego because the teachers want to make a living. And so they've discovered, because first of all, they didn't know, it didn't seem that anybody in America knew kung fu at all. When Bruce Lee showed up, Bruce Lee taught his style of kung fu, his personal style. And every student, every fan of Bruce Lee in America went to their local martial arts school and said, I want to learn this. And most of the teachers went, okay, we'll teach you this, without having any idea what it was. So, you would see schools that said karate kung fu or kung karate. And, in other words, all the teachers in America, not all the teachers, but many, I would say a majority of teachers, were karate and taekwondo. And the reason for that is that the teachers, in order to learn enough karate and taekwondo to teach it, you didn't have to spend the amount of time that you'd have to spend learning judo and aikido and any form of kung fu. Those are far more complex, far more deep. The reason that there are so many 6-degree taekwondo black belts is that you can do that. Anybody can do that. When I was at the world champion Tai Chi push hands champion guy, he'd have students come in and go, he says, oh, have you taken any other martial arts? Oh yeah, I was in Taekwondo. For how long? For 2 years. Oh, where are you up to? I'm 6-degree black belt. And it's like, okay, fine. Anyway, so here we have an issue where we are a country that really doesn't understand or know or want to know Kung Fu. This is why so many of the great Kung Fu teachers don't necessarily teach their best Kung Fu, because their students, they want to make a living, or their husbands or wives want them to make a living.
Right.
And so they have to teach what the student wants, and what the student wants is Bruce Lee, but not the real Bruce Lee, the Bruce Lee they saw in the movies, the one who makes the noise, because Bruce Lee he was still developing his style when he died.
Right.
And by the time he died, he was already prepared to just throw everything away, but he died before he could do that. So in any case, here we have that.
Do you think a lot of the, Americans that try to learn like Jeet Kune Do, do you think it's because, like, I know as I watch more and more and I read more and more about Bruce, like it seems like he had a lot of these philosophies that a lot of the American students kind of like don't pay attention to. It's more just like you said, they want more of the
here's
just
the deal.
Jeet
Kune Do is super simple. I love Jesus because he said, treat others the way you wish to be treated. So I live by Jesus's words, but I also live by Bruce Lee's words, which are learn everything you can from everyone you can and everything you can, which means nature and the rest of it. Then, this is the part everybody ignores. I'm sure I've said this before. Then make it your own. That was the last thing that Bruce said. Then make it your own. He understood that Kung Fu, in order to truly work, has to be personal. And as I've said before, the only person I can think of who actually followed was Jackie Chan. Yeah. And you can see how that turned out.
Yeah.
But even I love Donnie Yen. I've met Donnie Yen many times. I admire him enormously, but he wants to be Bruce Lee. He's finally getting into his own thing. I'm really looking forward to his new movie, The Prosecutor, which not Tai Sang, Hayao will also have. They got Jackie's new one, they got Jet's new one, they've got not Jet's new one. But anyway, we'll get into that. But anyway, so that's the situation we've got now. So we're on Haya. I'm suggesting that you see Tai Chi Master because it's a hoot. And there's stuff that made me go, and the Tai Chi in it is actually pretty darn good.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, because just by the cover a little bit, are they using, is the time period like where they be using like wires and stuff? Are they flying around? Or is it
that's it. That's the great thing about Tai Chi Master. Yes, they do. And also, no, they don't. Each sequence is like a world unto itself. But go back to that poster and notice the thing that I always tell people to distinguish between martial arts and Kung Fu. Look at his hands.
Yeah.
Do you see a fist?
Nope.
He's doing Kung Fu.
Yeah.
And there's more of that a little later on. But we have to jump through a non. Well, it is actually this next part. All martial arts include guns. So the next movie is not a Tai Chi movie. And by the way, I was also saying that once Kung Fu teachers wanted to make money, they had to develop a style that would attract people. And so they came up with the various different Wing Chun and all the other ones that, you know, made the badassers feel good. But once you get to the highest levels of Kung Fu, that's Tai Chi and Qigong. Most people are not satisfied with Tai Chi. They go to William C.C. Chen's school in New York because he has adapted it to be badass. Even though, you know, whenever I've met him and gone to his class, which has been for years now, I haven't been doing it for years because of the pandemic and all the rest of it. I would always stand there, and every once in a while I would see him teaching, and he would look at me and I would look at him, and he went, you know, I understood, because he has a wonderful, wonderful wife who, William is very much the velvet glove, and his wife is the iron fist. It's like Chow Yun-fat and his wife, velvet glove, iron fist. But she wants him to make a living, so he's adapted it for the badassers. And again, America. I mean, if you try to open up a Tai Chi school that teaches legitimate Tai Chi, because Qigong has no martial applications. I said that most Kung Fu are 6 things, and it's mind, body, internal, external, martial, healing. The thing is, Qigong doesn't have martial. It only is those other things with healing. Qigong is all about healing, while Tai Chi has martial applications, but they are so advanced and they're so Qi-based. Again, Tai Chi, Qigong, which means you're using the energy inside of you and all around you to power you. You're not using your muscles. You're not using your hatred. When you feel love, you make yourself even more powerful, but you're using your Qi, and that's the kind of stuff that I taught. If you go see, you know, Minions Rise of Gru and Kung Fu Panda, you'll see them doing that. And of course, it's a cartoon. So real martial artists go, oh, that's not possible. Well, I can assure you, having seen it for myself and having experienced it myself, it is possible, but it's not easy. In other words, and also there are no belts. I mean, every time I go to a Kung Fu school, and I want to know whether they're actually a Kung Fu school or not, I say, do you have belts? And if they say yes, I go, okay. You're not a.
Let's try to remember, there was like a line in the movie Sidekicks, and I think, is it Mako that was in that?
Yeah, Mako.
Yeah, they asked him what belt he had. He was, and he's like, got leather or something.
Yeah. Well, he was a great teacher, but he was teaching karate. He said that in Karate Kid too. What color belt do you have? And he said, well, you know, J.C. Penney. So that's the basis.
Maybe it was Miyagi that did that. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, Miyagi did that.
Yep.
But he's not the only one who did that. So in any case, all martial arts are everything. It's gun fu, and in the case of our next movie, it's gun fu and car fu, which is the next movie is Get Fast. And it's by a very interesting, I love that poster, because everything in that poster is in the movie. The actor, the car, I don't think they have 2 helicopters though. They might. I might have missed one. But everything in this movie, in this poster they have, but not to that degree.
What they do? They steal John Wick's Mustang there?
Yeah. Well, it's easy to get on a Mustang for, you know, the Mustang's not, but maybe they did that for the poster. But be that as it may, it's James Clayton is the director, the co-writer, and the leading actor. He's the guy in the car shooting. And he's somebody to watch. So this is one of those movies where it's like a glorified home movie, but it's a good glorified home movie. And Clayton's getting better with each film. So this was entertaining, but also, since I feel a kinship to him and also all the filmmakers and all the actors, it's like watching he's not my best friend. I don't know him. I haven't met him, but I feel like I know him and I've met him. And so it's like watching a friend's home movie. But usually when you see a home movie, you're just praying it's not going to bore you to death, or it's not terrible. And when it's not terrible and you go, oh, Yeah, you did a good job. That's what this is. You could see that he had a little, but he made it go a long way. And he has great, and compared to some of the other movies we're going to be talking about, yeah, this thing's up there. This is a good, I'm going to give it one of these. So Get Fast is worth seeing, and you don't even have to fast forward through it. It's fast enough that it's well titled. They try to go as quickly
Quick
as
and
they
to the
can.
point.
Yeah, it's not Megalopolis. Let's put it that way. And speaking of that, our next film is another wonderful martial art movie. This is Get Fast is a martial arts movie. Tai Chi Master is both a kung fu and a wuxia movie. I think you all know the difference between kung fu and wuxia. Wuxia is the floating swordsman. It's their comic book world. It's their Marvel. So Tai Chi Master is wuxia and kung fu. Get Fast is car and gun fu. And Bangkok Dog is a martial art movie. And it is directed by Brian Le, who also was involved in Paper Tigers and Everything Everywhere All at Once. He was involved in those, but here he's doing an Asian film. He was the choreographer for this. Chaya, the other, you saw the name of the director on the poster. He was involved with Ong Bak. Put the poster up again, because the director of Ong Bak. There we go. Bangkok Dog. And Bangkok Dog stars D.Y. Sao, who is a true mixed martial artist, because he's into wushu, he's into Cambodian Bokator, he does kickboxing, and he's learning kung fu. And so,
is he relatively new? Because I don't recognize
yes.
him.
Well, most of these guys, almost everybody who followed the star of Ong Bak has been a stuntman, because it's not like that country has a school for actors. I mean, the Ong Bak took everybody by surprise. The Thai cinema was like, oh, we actually have a cinema now, and we have an action style. So this gentleman, I mean, I've never seen him before, but it's really fun. I mean, the rest of the movie is the problem with Ong Bak is that it pretty much did everything you could do. And also then the follow-ups, like The Night Comes for Us and stuff, did everything you could do. I mean, because they're starting at an 11. And once you get to an 11, it's hard to go beyond that. So this movie is interesting because of this new star and because of his mixed martial arts ability. So basically every fight scene is different. And so it's really interesting to see how he reacts in each fight scene. And you can always tell the budget by how many actual fight scenes they have. Because for the most part, dialogue is not these movies' strong suit.
Yeah.
And it's where the movie always fails. The plot is, it's an agent who's dealing with drugs or who's dealing with crime, and he has to fight his way through doo-da. And so it's just a matter, for me, it's just, again, fast forward to the fights, enjoy the fights. And this had enjoyable fights, interesting fights. And so I can recommend it for that. So when it shows up on Haya or wherever it shows up, I think it's already available for rental all over the internet. It's worthwhile, but not, I repeat, not as worthwhile as our next film, 100 Yards. 100 Yards is the first film that the Chinese Film Bureau has allowed Zhu Huafeng to release since before the pandemic. He put out The Final Master before the pandemic, and after that, I think he made 3 or 4 other movies that the Chinese Film Bureau would not release. And I don't know if I'll ever get to see them. But finally, using a co-director in this one, he was able to put this out. This movie is extraordinary and exhausting. It's extraordinary because this is a true kung fu film. This has got kung fu all over it. there are a lot of fights. There are a lot of people. But I defy you you Americans out there, I defy you to remain interested in the plot. Because one of the reasons that Zhuo Feng's Kung Fu movies are special, and he's exceptional, is that even La Kaliang and Chang Che and all the other great Shaw Brothers Kung Fu, even Jackie Chan and all the rest of them, they adapt their Kung Fu style so they're able to put on 10-minute fight scenes. They're able to extend Kung Fu. In real Kung Fu, that's ridiculous. Because as you'll see in The Final Master and now in 100 Yards, these fights are fast. Because if they're not fast, you're doing it wrong. You're not doing Kung Fu right. You're doing something else. You're extending stuff, and you're doing acrobatics, and you're doing wushu, or you're doing whatever it is you're doing. Real Kung Fu practitioners, real Kung Fu students, real Kung Fu. Again, if it's not over like that, it's not Kung Fu. Because it's like, that's how it works. Because you're using your energy, again, there are so many wonderful fights in this. With men, with women, with children, with old people, just incredible. And I still haven't finished it, because what happens to me is I start watching it and I go, what? Oh God, and I have to watch the fight again. I have to watch the fight again. I have to watch the fight again. That's why I showed my favorite fight from The Final Master 3 years running at the San Diego Comic-Con Kung Fu Extravaganza. I said, let's show that scene again. Because every year I learned more about Kung Fu, so I understood more about the fight. And that's
Right.
what this movie is about, except you can tell that his attitude is he doesn't know if China will ever let him make another movie. So he puts everything in this. This is an hour and 45-minute movie that feels like a 6-hour, it feels like Agatha All Along.
Wow.
Because it is so meaty. There's so much in it. And his plots make him unique as well. Because his plots, ever since Final Master, has been about the political infighting of Kung Fu schools. And having been involved in real Kung Fu schools, I can attest to that. The other issue that Kung Fu has that makes Kung Fu self-defeating is that the more you learn it, the better you get at it, the harder it is for you to control yourself. Because in this movie, you'll notice this is why the plot is so hard, because what he's doing with the plot is getting into mental Kung Fu or karma Kung Fu, which is what happens, because there's something that happens to the exterior of your body in Kung Fu, but there's also something that happens in the interior. When I was working for the University of Bridgeport's Martial Arts Studies degree program, I told the other teachers, most of whom were Taekwondo, was that Kung Fu is so powerful, you really only need to learn 5% to teach it for the rest of your life. But if you go beyond the 5%, the ego will start going, it's just so much power. You have so much power. I mean, I've seen Kung Fu people do something that so many other people don't believe, which is the simplest thing for a Tai Chi guy is to throw somebody across the room without, like, again, doing the thing from Kung Fu Panda. And the guy goes flying across the room and crashes into the wall. I've seen that in real life. The first time I saw it was in Taiwan in 2001, before I started learning. I was meeting all the teachers in Taiwan. And that was when I started actual Kung Fu and actual Qigong. I tried to do it here in America. I couldn't find anybody. But once I saw them do it the first time in 2001 in Taiwan, and I didn't believe it myself. I saw it and went, oh, that's not, they're just faking. Those students are faking. They're launching themselves. Then later I found out when it happened to me, I sort of went, okay, they're not. Yeah, it actually works. So the plot of this movie is about kung fu teacher's going insane. Because it's, and also the infighting, again, all these different schools that it happens here too. My style is the best. My style is the best. My style is the best. Every single sequence. And the other thing that's driving me insane about this movie is it starts simply. It starts with the hands. It starts with the body. And then every subsequent sequence introduces a different weapon.
Yeah.
And some of these weapons I've never seen before. And they're used beautifully. And I'm just like, I'm flabbergasted. I know I'll be seeing this. I'll be seeing 100 yards 100 times. And I'm going to be just keep watching the same fight scene from the very first fight scene to it's just, they get more and more incredible, but you need to know Kung Fu. You can enjoy it without knowing Kung Fu, but
right.
it'll start trying your patience because you won't, how did that happen? There's a wonderful, amazing sequence. Oh, there's so many amazing sequences in the movie where a bunch of people who we've seen before, these bodyguards who are trying to, they're working for everybody. Everybody has a different agenda and they're working for everybody. So they're constantly showing up at different places at different times to try to do something different to another hero or heroine. So they find, and you find out all these secret masters. There are all these people who are secret masters. And one of these secret masters is a young woman, a very young woman, looked like a high school student. And there's these sequences where all these guys who you've already seen beating up guys go after her, and she's defeating every one of them, one after another,
That's
after
gotta be
another,
cool.
over and over and over and over again, and each time different. Because as Kung Fu people will tell you, and as I tell you, if somebody comes to me and said, if somebody was going to punch you, what would you do? And my reply is, it all depends on how they attack. I cannot formulate my defense until I know what the attack is, because everything depends on what is being done, and also not just what is physically being done, but what is the intention of the attacker. My defense will differ depending on what the attacker's object is. If he wants to humiliate me, one defense. If he wants to hurt me, another defense. If he wants to kill me, another defense.
Yeah.
And it's all gradations. And if he punches, if he chokes, if he kicks, all different. And that's what this movie is like too. So every single thing is, I can assure you, perfectly done. But I defy you to follow it the first time. It's like, but the energy comes through the screen, and it's like, wow, very impressive. So yeah, I should have saved this for the end, but 100 yards.
Yeah.
Anyway, enough off of that. Now let's get off of Haya. I have to get a Netflix shirt. I can rip off the Haya shirt.
You need to be like your stagehand, just like after each part, just okay, we're running Netflix. Yeah, rip it off, Yeah,
I'm going to do that for next month. Anyway, so we're on to Netflix, and the Netflix again. They're so great. Netflix is so great, and they've released all these movies in the last week or week and a half. So I was just like, every day I'd check Netflix and go, oh boy. So first we have Devara.
I've heard about this. I think I want to see this.
Now, remember last month, and if you go back and watch our previous Action Film Autopsies, you'll see that I pretty much every month do a new Indian action film, because they put them out all the time, because they're supplying their audiences, which is, I think, the third largest movie audience in the world, following America and China. But be that as it may, so this is Devara. Last month we talked about an Indian movie called Greatest of All Time, GOAT. Devara is kind of like an exact copy of Greatest of All Time, except, how do I describe it? A ghost version, in that the hero in Greatest of All Time did a lot of it himself, which is one of the joys of watching the Indian films. This movie, Devara, is all wires, all special effects, all floating. He hardly goes through a door without using a special effect. So at that point, it literally has no weight. There's no gravity involved here. So it's kind of like, all right, so of course he's going to do whatever he wants. And also the plot is it's the same. He's the leading character, just like in Greatest of All Time. In Greatest of All Time, the leading character plays the hero and the villain. and he fights himself, if you remember. And here in Devara, he's playing himself and his brother, and it's like, but it's just so fake, and it's literally and figuratively lightweight. So I was just sort of like going, oh, but it's still 3 hours long. It didn't have a good dance number, which pissed me off. So I cannot strongly recommend. But then the following week, as if Netflix knew, they put on Bagheera. And
immediately thought of Black Panther here. I don't know why.
Well, I can't imagine why. And by the way, the name Bagheera means Black Panther.
Yep. Yeah.
So what they're doing here is they have created their own Marvel movie. But they've done it. It is The Punisher, it is Daredevil, and it has got smarts, and it's got heart, and it's got really good action. I mean, it's 3 hours, and I really like the beginning because it's a cop.
That actually won't bother me because, like I said, a couple episodes back, Triple R was amazing. I did the 3 hours. I was like, I thought it was going to be over in like an hour and a half, and I started looking. I was like, whoa, wait a minute, we got like another hour and so go.
Yeah. Well, Bagheera, it's a cop who realizes he cannot help the innocent and the victimized as a cop because the cops are so corrupt. So he creates a superhero for himself, which is the Black Panther, which is Bagheera.
Yeah.
And he puts on the mask. And when he puts on that mask, he changes. The movie changes because it starts really well, and he's trying so hard to help people, and you watch him change. Very much Daredevil. He has no special powers, although just like all Indian films, he seems to develop them, but he doesn't develop them legitimately the way like Daredevil does, like getting radioactivity or Black Panther or whatever. He just becomes, the more angry he becomes, the more powerful he becomes. And also, I love it because I've always felt that good should always triumph over evil, or has in the past, because good is smart and evil is stupid. And when you're smart, just like the difference between martial arts and kung fu, when you're smart, you get more powerful. You learn to become more powerful, and he becomes more powerful. So all the Deus Ex Machina stuff, all the contrivances in this movie, I accepted because I understood that he was getting stronger because he was becoming more, he was controlling his rage more, directed at the places. He wasn't getting frustrated anymore. He could go directly to the problem and beat the crap out of it. And he does. And it becomes increasingly violent. And then in the middle of the movie, something really tragic happens, which I was hoping wouldn't happen because they spent, I can reveal, spoiler alert, people. There's this wonderful female character. There's the heroine who the hero really, really loves. And the villain wants to get back at the hero, so he victimizes the heroine, and horribly. And that's the other thing about Indian movies. It seems to be a comedy, and then suddenly it's not a comedy anymore. It's a tragedy. It's a horrible, murderous, awful thing. But I should be used to that because I remember back in the day when I would see these Indian musicals about a slasher musical, an Indian slasher musical. So yeah, something horrible happens in the middle, but that just unleashes him, and it's just really good. It's a strong, strong, strong movie. So I was going, all right, that takes care of Netflix this month. But then, like yesterday, they released another French action film. And if you've been watching, you know that they did two Lost Bullet movies, Lost Bullet 1 and 2, also French. Also had a stuntman who became a writer-director star. And they did it all real. In other words, the great thing about the French stuff is it's not special effects. It's not Fast and Furious. It's real car chases, real fights, beautifully done. The new French action movie that Netflix put out was GT Max. And you can pretty much guess what it's surrounds, what it concentrates on, what the spotlight is. It's motorcycle and car racing, and it's also, it has a female star named Ava Baria. It also is directed by a non-Frenchman. It's directed by, I believe, an Englishman who is the stunt coordinator on Fast X and No Time to Die. So I can strongly recommend. It's in French, so you don't have to, but it has subtitles. But you don't have to worry about the dialogue. The dialogue is no big whoop, but it's in French, and everything sounds better in French. So that's fine. But yeah, you can fast forward to the action scenes because again, real cars, real motorcycles, real action, and the final fight. The fights in Lost Bullet were very sophisticated, very smart, obviously done by stuntmen, and really exciting. The big fight at the end of GT Max is a real fight, and I was kind of okay, yeah. And also, people, unlike Fast X and all these other movies where people are getting, or John Wick, where people are getting pounded, they're not responding to it. The two fighters are responding to it realistically, and I went, woo! I love the French. Woo! Thank you, thank you, thank you. I want to give my normal disclaimer, which is, it all depends on what order I see these things. If I had seen Bagheera first and then Devara, I don't know how I would have reviewed them. But the fact that I saw Devara first and then Bagheera, that made me happy. And it's the same thing with GT Max, made me happy. So, all right, let's get off of Netflix and into the movie theaters. And we start, it's actually not, these aren't movie theaters. These are on the internet, the movie theater of the internet. You can rent or buy this by Absolution everywhere. You can get it on, I mean, if you look it up on Google, it'll give you a list of places you can rent it from. And it is, there we go, Liam Neeson. He's earned his name above the title. And what's great about Liam Neeson is that he's not going to pretend that he's not as old as he is. So usually, I mean, I think we'll be seeing posters in a little bit where we'll see people pretending they're not as old as they are.
Yeah.
Gerald Butler and Liam Neeson, they are sort of like their personal stamp of approval. He always wants to do something different. Liam Neeson never phones it in. Even though this is directed by the guy who's worked with Liam before in Cold Pursuit. I would recommend Cold Pursuit above Absolution because Absolution is a drama. It's, and it's kind of quiet and slow. He's great. Everybody else is great, but it's a classic tale of a guy who's done bad things, wanting to make up for the bad things he's done to his family and other people as he's getting older and preparing to die. Okay.
In your opinion, like, because obviously back when Taken came out, I fell in love with that movie when I saw it in the theater.
Awesome. Yeah.
But do you feel like, kind of like with Liam, some of his recent movies in the recent years have been kind of samey in terms of characters?
Oh, absolutely, because he doesn't look for movies. People come to him with movies.
Yeah.
Would you be in this? And his reply is, yes, I will.
Sure.
And I will
money,
bring
right?
and I will bring as much as, but again, he doesn't phone it in.
Yeah, he's a consummate professional.
He's still going to do as good a job as he can given the circumstance. And that's why his stuff fluctuates. Because, Cold Pursuit, I liked a lot better than Absolution. Absolution is fine, but Cold Pursuit is fun and smart. So again, if you're a Liam Neeson fan, you cannot lose with Liam Neeson. It almost doesn't matter how bad the movie is. He's going to be fine. Now, next, speaking of not the same situation, Armor.
Okay. Stallone. Hey, we got a Jason Patrick sighting. Oh no.
Yeah, but I almost sent you another poster. There was another poster that they have, I think, on Wikipedia. This I think I got off of IMDb. But the other poster, I almost sent it, but it was so insulting because it was one of those posters that I love. I should have sent it to you anyway so we could study it now.
Compare
it. Whoever did the poster hated the movie and put in clues in the poster why he hated the movie. There's only a couple of clues in this. The main clue is Jason Patrick wearing sunglasses and looking off to the right. I don't have time for this movie. Now, looking at this film, you guess for me, what is Sylvester Stallone playing? Is he playing a hero or is he playing a villain?
I'm not sure, but he looks like of course he has the expression he would have in like Tulsa King or something. So
Right. He's playing a villain.
Okay.
And why he's in this movie is beyond me. Except I assume he needs to make money. I'm assuming that, or he just had nothing to do that day, because he's playing the villain. He's not in it very much. It's very difficult for me. I put up a little a Facebook post about and showed pictures from the films we're talking about tonight, and it was very hard. I actually couldn't find a picture of Stallone in action because he's not. This is a movie where he's the head. Stallone's the head of a gang who wants to knock over a armored car, so they trap it on a bridge. And the whole movie is them trying to get into the armored car while it's still on the bridge. That's the whole movie.
Oh wow!
It takes them. It's a boring, not very much action, insular. It's a movie.
Yeah,
I can't recommend it. But I can semi-recommend our next film, Weekend in Taipei. Now, my big problem is that I know Taipei. The people who made this movie obviously don't. This movie was made with the cooperation of Taipei because they'll do anything to try to get out from under China's thumb.
Yeah.
Because China, so you want to make a movie in Taipei? Yeah, we'll help. We'll back you up. We'll help pay for it. We'll give you all the cars and actors and everything you need. And it is a classic action movie. Although, I saw all the action scenes and all the car chases and all the car crashes, and I'm going, that's not Taipei. You couldn't do that in Taipei. The moment the car went over 35 miles an hour, you'd be surrounded by cops. They know how to handle themselves in Taipei. But here, it's the wonderful that wonderful actor. What's his name? Bring him up again.
Luke Evans.
Luke Evans, playing an agent, and a drug agent or whatever, who's fighting an evil a bunch of drug people. And so the action scenes are fun. They're nonsense, but they're fun. But it's directed by George Huang, who directed a couple of movies a few years back, Swimming with Sharks and others. It's co-written by Luc Besson, who did all those, really cool French action things and science fiction things. But basically, the dialogue is almost hilariously bad. Just like, so I was going to say fast forward to the fights, but no, you can watch the whole thing and just marvel at what a weird little movie this is. And feel bad for Luke. Feel good for the Asian guys who got some, got a paycheck. But it's an interesting movie. Again, I don't want to see it. I want to go back to 100 Yards.
Anyway, I did have a question for you, because when I saw the poster, I was like, oh, I didn't know Luke Evans was in this film. Like, I didn't know much about it. But did you ever see No One Lives?
Yes.
What'd you think? Because I actually enjoyed that film a lot.
I did too.
That was a nice little premise.
Yeah, also there were smarts. There were smarts involved. There was a backbone and there were brains involved. Yeah. Not so much in this movie.
This one's quite opposite.
Yeah. Now, so let's get out of the internet and the Amazon Prime rentals and into the actual movie theaters. Red One. What's interesting about two of the movies we're talking about 4 more movies. 2 of the movies, they're in the movie theaters, but they weren't supposed to be. This one was not supposed to be in the movie theaters either. This one was supposed to be, now you'll notice, it's Red One. there was a movie that The Rock made on Netflix called Red Notice.
Yeah.
And he should not put red in the titles anymore because he's setting up a bad thing here. I know about this movie because, of course, I'm Santa Claus. I've been the jolly old elf since 2005. I've been in children's hospitals all over the country. I've been in Times Square. I've been in stores. I've been at private parties. I know all about, the man. And I heard about this script years ago. This was one of those scripts that was on, what is it called? Is it called The Blacklist? Which was the place where producers talk about the hottest new scripts, but that haven't been produced yet. It's called I think it's called the something list but I think whatever. This was the red one was on that list, and it had Santa as a hero. Now, I did a children's book called Santa Confidential. Hold on for a second. I'll show you the cover. I might as well. Yeah. Oh yeah, you can see it behind me too. This is Santa Confidential, and that's a little children's book I wrote. Let me get my headphones back on. And that had much the same plot, as I'm told, as the original Red One. Red One was going to be a movie, because there's been a couple of action movies with Santa as the hero. But what was the last one with David Harbour, which was
Silent Night? Is that right?
Yes, well, there wasn't Silent Night. That was the John Woo gun movie. But
Bloody Night, or it was something
like that. It was something like Bloody Night. Yeah, it was a movie for adults. It wasn't for kids.
Yeah, right.
But basically, in my book and in the original script, Santa was saving the elves. It was a whole epic tale of where the elves came from and how Santa saved them from white people, from humans. But he was Santa still. He wasn't the David Harbour Santa. I liked the Kurt Russell Santa, who did a couple. I think it was on Netflix too. I thought his characterization of Santa was pretty good, pretty much on the money. So this one, Red One, basically Red Notice and Black Adam, all the color movies can all be understood with a simple phrase. And then The Rock found it. Then The Rock found it. So this is not a movie about Santa anymore. However, if you see it, the scenes with Santa, with J.K. Simmons as Santa, and J.K. Simmons does a good job. I do not understand why they don't dye his beard. He's got, this gray in here, and I'm going, make him effing Santa, man. Because he does a really good job. But
he's a great actor. Love him.
Again, I can't help but feel, because he is such a great actor, that the reason they put the gray in there or kept it gray and didn't put the white in there, and also made him a tangential. The scenes that he's the main focal point are really good, and that was the core of the actual original script. But then Rock found it. So now Santa is not the hero. The Rock is the hero, and The Rock does what The Rock wants to do. And you may have heard about the stories that this movie's its budget inflated to $250 million because The Rock did what he wanted to do. And there's a scene where they go down to the Bahamas where there was no point to that entire sequence except apparently The Rock wanted to go to the Bahamas. So it's bloated. For me, it's a very unhappy movie. It could have been really good, but it's not. And it's just so contrived. It's like Red Notice. If you ever saw Red Notice,
I didn't, mainly because people were saying it was bad. So
yeah, well, so is this. I mean, if you're able to accept all that, it moves along. It's farcical and fantasy. There are some good ideas, and all the good ideas come from the original script. And then the Rock does to the movie what he does to his muscles.
I can't help but thinking the reason why you got Simmons, Evans, and Lou in there is to kind of carry the weight because he has his limitations. I think as an actor, a lot of times and usually The Rock just playing The Rock.
Well, I don't necessarily feel that's true. I mean, I've met The Rock a couple of times, and I like The Rock, except until he gets swell-headed, And there's
Hmm.
also issues with his muscles, and just like in Kung Fu, how that might affect his brain, because
Hmm.
he would. For a while, I enjoyed his action films, especially the ones that concentrated on him, because he was dependable. He was part of the same crew as Liam Neeson and Gerald Butler for me, because I knew I would see a kind of film that I would see. I would see The Rock making a movie that he wanted to see. But now he's lost his way. It's just like Kung
Yeah,
Fu
it's
again.
so funny because I remember because one of my favorite movies with him and Neko's is The Game Plan,
Mm-hmm.
which is not really an action film; it's a football film with a kid, and
Yeah.
it's wonderful. I love it. It's so great.
Yeah. And I liked his Skyscraper movie. I've liked several of his films, but he has, since Black Adam and Red Notice, he has lost his way. He no longer is doing stuff for himself, or he's had too many steroids. I don't know what the problem is, but this could have
Yeah.
been a great movie. As it is, it's still watchable if you're forgiving, because it moves along. And again, as I said, it has good ideas from the original script, but it's still it's a movie that, I mean, this is going to be my rating right here. So sad, so sad. It could have been good, but it wasn't. Now, let's get on to happier times. Matter of fact, let's jump to the next one that was not supposed to be a movie, and that
Okay.
is we go from Red One to Moana 2. I put it in because it's animation. It's The Rock again,
Yeah.
but and also they're filming the live action version now, but he won't be in control of that. He may pump up the budget, but he won't be in control of that.
So he'll
Moana,
still be involved, just not as the
yeah,
creator, I guess.
yeah, he won't have control over it. Moana 2 reminds me a lot of Frozen 2, because both of them were made for the same reason. Because of when Bob Chapek took over Disney, he screwed the pooch and everything was failing. So they needed to quickly, because Pixar said they didn't want to make sequels ever. But Bob Iger, when he came back, it was, let's make sequels for now to tide us over.
Hmm.
And so they'd made Frozen 2. And Frozen 2 was not as good as Frozen 1. But then again,
Right.
what could have been?
Right.
But it was still okay. Just like the only Toy Story sequel they made, sort of like that they didn't want to make originally, was Toy Story 4, but it still was good. And so is Moana was supposed to be a series on Disney Plus, because that's what Chapek was doing. That's what he did to Marvel. That's what he was doing to Disney. Or make a lot of series. I mean, because he knew what he was trying to sabotage. I'm certain of that. I'm sure that whoever was letting him or paying him off gave him enough that that it was worth his while. But in any case, that's my theory. I don't know it for a fact, but his behavior sort of told. I mean, if I'm Hercule Poirot or Sherlock Holmes and I see his behavior, I'd say, yeah, he's sabotaging the joint. So Moana 2 is not as good as Moana 1, but how could it be?
Right.
And sure enough, and also it's not if it was originally made for movies, Lin-Manuel Miranda would have done the music. But since it was originally made for the television show, he didn't do it. There were two female music writers, and the music's not as good as the first one, but it's still good. It's still very entertaining. It's very interesting to watch, to try to figure out what they cut, because we're interested now, not we, but I'm interested in my movie friends are interested as to whether they're going to do the television show now and put it out as the TV show to show you all the plot lines they had to cut. Because I think it would make Moana 2 more admirable if you saw how they made it into a movie. So because they had to bridge it, they had to take all sorts of hunks and stuff out of it. And I have to tell you, the other thing that's great, it's kind of again like Kung Fu in that the animation is glorious. The more you know about Kung Fu, the greater the fights are in 100 yards. The more you know about animation, the more glorious Moana 2 is, because it's like, oh, look at that. Look at all those colors. Again, that's the one good thing about making it into a movie is if you go to a good movie theater that has a projection bulb at full power and with a really huge screen, it's again like, wow, amazing. So it's worthwhile. I read reviews where they're going, it's not as good as the first, and I'm going, really? That's your criticism?
Yeah, that's the best you got.
Okay. There's the sequels that are better than the originals. You can put on one hand,
right?
And that's from history, the entire history of cinema. You can count the number of sequels that are better than the original on one hand. So yeah, you expected Moana 2 to, oh, why isn't it as good as the original? Oh, shut up. Anyway, and speaking of sequels that are not as good as the original, but still mighty good, Gladiator II. Nothing wrong with this movie that the original star and the gap between the two movies shortened would have healed, would have fixed. Gladiator 2 is good. It's better than it has any right to be.
Right.
And it's been, I mean, how many years has it been since Gladiator 1? It's at least 20.
Gladiator came out in 2000.
Yeah, it's like 25 years.
Yeah.
But it's sort of, that serves the movie better. The star, who's a hopeful, hopefully he'll become a superstar, and he's up for the part of James Bond.
Oh, really? I didn't hear that.
He doesn't have the strength of Russell Crowe or Liam Neeson or Gerald Butler. But the rest of the movie is really good. And I thought it was Ridley Scott producing it. No, he was directing it. That surprised me, because I'm used to his human-hating movies, like, his Alien movies and stuff. But this is very well done. And of course, this has a legitimate hero and villain plot. It's about the nature of being a hero. It's about the nature of being a villain. Denzel, it's worth it for Denzel alone.
That's everybody keeps saying he's got like Oscar worthy in this.
So. Oh, it's ridiculous. I mean, he walks out on screen and it's like, I love that guy. Let me just keep looking at that guy. Oh, this guy's so good. He's black. Oh, I didn't notice. Anyway. And the action is really good too. The action is good.
Yeah, they said this is a lot faster pace and a lot more action going on.
But it's gladiator action. They're not doing. I mean, it's sword fu,
right?
So whatever. But it's still it's worthwhile. Is it as good as the first? No. But that was 25 years ago.
Right.
Relax. I'm sorry they called it Gladiator 2, even though it is a legitimate sequel to Gladiator. There are a lot of ties. But
yeah, people who aren't really familiar should know that the lead actor in this is the young boy from the first film. So
right, well, he's playing the young boy. He's not the actual young boy from the first film. In other words, that was a different actor playing the young boy in the first film.
Oh, I thought it was the same guy.
Really? Oh, I didn't know that.
So.
Oh, let's
I have
look
to
that
double
up.
check. Yeah,
check that while I'm talking about the next.
Yeah.
Movie. Yes. So our final movie of this episode is, originally I was not going to put it on the show until I saw it. And originally I was going to call it the best action movie of the year. And I still might. But what's wonderful about November is that 100 Yards and Wicked, I don't call it Wicked Part 1, because I saw the show on Broadway. This is legitimately Wicked Act 1. This is how the show starts on Broadway, and the end of this movie is the end of Act 1 on Broadway. And Wicked Part 2, which comes out next year, will be Act 2.
And I was wrong.
Figuratively.
It's not the same guy. I thought maybe they initially thought they were going to use him or something, but I don't know.
That would be effing impossible.
That's what I thought would be awesome.
Did you get the name of the actor? Who's the actor?
Well, yeah, the guy that's which one? The original or this one?
The original kid, yeah.
No, I can get that though.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, go ahead.
We're on to Wicked now. We're doing Wicked. Wicked, again, I was not going to put it as an action film, but then I saw it. And then I sort of went, holy crap. You all know out there that I've done a lot of different things in my career and life. I've done a lot of jobs. I've worked in a lot of mediums. And one of the things I've helped, I've helped screenwriters who want to become novelists. I've helped comic writers who want to become novelists. One of my consulting jobs is telling people what their form is, because every single form, a comic form is different than a movie script form. A movie script form is different than a novel. A novel is different than a nonfiction book. They all have their own forms. In order to do them well, it's important to know the form. It's important to walk a mile in the shoes of the medium that you're working in. Video games are different, all the rest of it. Everything's different. However, Wicked is the adaptation of a Broadway show. I've been an actor on stage and in movies and in television. Now, I've been an actor on television. I've been a talking head on television, but I've been an actor in movies, but I've been an actor in stage, and I've been in a lot of musicals. And I go to a lot of musicals, and musicals are a completely different experience than I've had in the movie theaters. I love movies. I've, of course, not hundreds, thousands of movies in my life I've seen all over the world in all sorts of theaters but I've been to do Broadway. I've also seen musicals all over the world in different environments, but I go to Broadway because that's where the best stuff is consistently. And the big difference for me is that a movie, for the most part, I can enjoy through the screen. When you go to Broadway, the energy is, and because I'm into Tai Chi and I'm into Qigong, and one of the reasons I'm into Tai Chi and Qigong is because I would go to theater and I could feel the energy. It would affect me, unlike television and movies, because they're pouring out so much incredible energy on stage. When the great singing, the great dancing, even the great plays, just the energy is direct. That's the magic of the theater. You can see things in the theater you can't see anywhere else until Wicked. Wicked is an astonishing amalgamation of cinematic and theatrical. I've been talking to all my friends who, first thing I see when I'm talking to my female friends and even my male friends, I'm going, have you seen Wicked? Do you want to see it again? Because I want to see it with other people, so I can find out whether what I felt is felt by other people. I can't describe it yet. All I know is that it is unlike anything I've ever seen or felt. And also the other thing John Chu does, who's the director, not only does he combine the theatrical with the cinematic, he combines the literary with the theatrical to the cinematic. Because also he has all these nods and these hooks, all these different hooks from the book, from the original Wizard of Oz movie, from the show to the movie. I mean, for me, it's like an Indian film. It's 2 hours and 45 minutes long. And I didn't care. It was just like that for me. Because it was like I was being hit by wave after wave.
Well, that's when you know something's been well written and well put together, because when time can fly that fast and you're not tired.
Yeah. And I've heard a lot of other people, criticizing, and I'm going, okay, you didn't see the movie I saw. But be that as it may, it's just, and of course, maybe I'm open to it because of Qigong and Tai Chi and shit, but I don't care. I mean, it was just like, and also literally the emotional action, just like 100 Yards, the emotional action is one thing, but the physical action is amazing too, because when everybody on screen is singing on screen. Nobody is pre-recorded. They're all singing for the mics. And there are sequences where they're flying through the air, and you can see the behind the scenes stuff on YouTube and shit. And you see that she has the harness on. You can hear her singing. You can see her flying all over the place. And in the movie, again, the combination of her emotions, the song, the movement, the power, and she's an effing witch. It's just like, I couldn't believe it. I still can't. I still haven't been able to get my hands. So anybody out there, You want to go see Wicked with me? Because
Well, you can fly down here because my wife is a big fan of this this play and stuff and the book and everything. So she
well, wait a
we
minute. You're
haven't
in
been out to
Connecticut,
see it.
right?
We're in Maryland.
Oh, who's in Connecticut? Somebody I knew was in Connecticut. But anyway, but no, I don't have a car, so you'd have to come down here or
Come get you.
or I could take a train. I could
Treat you like royalty. I'll send a limo.
That's right. Hey, I'm Ric Meyers, man.
You're Ric
I'm
Meyers.
Kung Fu
I'm Ric
Santa.
Myers.
I'm Kung Fu Santa, baby.
Yeah.
I'm King Kung Fu Santa.
King.
I was king in medieval times. So in any case,
True
anyway,
that.
so I'm telling you, people, you've got 100 yards. I'm going to be seeing that 100 times at least. Oh, I'm going to be seeing each fight scene 100 times so I can understand that completely. And then the whole movie and Wicked. Yeah, you've got some good watching to do this month, people.
Yeah, I was going to ask you because, like, I know in a few weeks I'll be doing my top 10 movies of 2024. So, if you thought any of these movies in your list was worthy, which one would it be?
Of course, Wicked.
Okay, that'd be one of them. Okay,
absolutely no question. Absolutely no question.
The two that caught my eye when you were talking was Bagheera and GT Max. So I don't know, are they still kind of worthy?
They're good, but they're not as good as 100 Yards or Wicked.
Okay.
Yeah, they're good. I mean, again, when we do the ratings at the end, Bagheera's only good because of Marvel, because of the stuff that's come before it. It's still good on its own, but it's a B. It's not an A.
Okay.
I mean, Wicked is A plus plus plus. It's. I mean,
that's why I wanted. So 100 Yards and Wicked, you would say were like worthy of.
Well, 100 Yards maybe just for me. I think my attitude, and I'm pretty sure that Zuo Feng feels the same way. Only kung fu people will appreciate this movie. Because most of the reviews I've seen, the American reviews, are classic. They're just like, we love the fight scenes, but we didn't get it. I didn't get it. Yeah, of course you're not going to get it because you think it's martial arts. It's not. Yeah. It's kung fu.
Right.
And you don't know kung fu. The more you know, again, the thing that afflicts the American public and the American filmmakers is limited knowledge. They think what Bruce Lee did was the optimum in kung fu. It is far, far from it. And Bruce knew that, but he wasn't able to tell you because he died. Yeah. So anyway, and you stuck him in aspect and you're not letting him grow up. But then again, nobody else can get him to grow up. There's nobody else working in film except if he was willing to do it, Jet Li. Jet Li knows enough about real kung fu that he could do something, but he doesn't want to. The movies have hurt him enough.
I had a question. I wanted to go back a little bit because so you mentioned how some of these teachers like will teach Americans just what like they think they want. So like the Bruce Lee fancy stuff.
No, not what they think they want, what they know they want.
What they actually want, yeah.
Because the students say flatly, "We're not interested in this. Show us what Bruce did."
But like I know that both in film and even in culture, because that's one thing that kind of Bruce kind of fought against when he came to America was that they didn't want him teaching their kung fu here. So you mentioned like the guy that you were visiting for a while, and you said he was just kind of teaching the Americans what they wanted, but like, do you think he kind of holds on to some of that more secret stuff? Like, even if they're not asking.
Well, the thing is, it's not secret at all. If you wanted to learn it, he'd teach it to you.
He would teach. Okay, so that's what I was wondering if he was like, I don't really want to give it away, you know, because it's like my stuff.
He selects the wonderful irony is that the Chinese didn't have anything to worry about because they didn't know the Americans enough at that time.
Yeah.
And the fact of the matter is, don't worry, China. Americans are not going to want what they're teaching. They're going to want Taekwondo. They're going to want karate. They want to make fists and go boom, 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 and feel tough and feel badass. That's what apparently it seems the majority of white people want.
Yeah.
Because I keep trying to teach my style of kung fu, which is called "Don't Hurt Yourself" or "Don't Hurt Me." Nobody wants it. I'm giving it away for free. Nobody wants it.
Terrible. Just terrible.
It's not terrible. It's fine if that's what they want. I want to feel healthy. I'm old now. I want to be as healthy as I can be for as long as I can be. And that ain't karate, baby. And also, I don't have to really worry about defending myself, because if somebody wants to hurt me, and it's happened a couple of times, and my first reaction is, you want to hurt me? Me?
Why?
I mean, exactly. What does that prove? You know,
Right.
basically, what do you need me? This was the second time that happened. I said to them, what do you need me to do to keep you from trying to punch me? Because I knew what would happen if he tried to punch me.
Right.
And he said, apologize right now to my face. I said, of course, I'm really, really sorry. There, good. And he walked away. And I went, excellent.
That's what we call de-escalating.
Well, more than that, also another one of my Qigong and Tai Chi teachers taught me how you can affect the other person's energy just by getting near them. If you can control your own energy, you can control a person who's not in control of their own energy. You can control their energy. I've seen him stop a fight by walking near the people who wanted to fight. And then for some reason they would look at him, and then suddenly they didn't want to fight anymore. It was like, nice trick. That's cool, man. But also what's great about, since I took Tai Chi, but also when I was searching for Kung Fu, I also took Judo, I took Karate, I took Jiu-Jitsu. Did I take anything? Oh, I took a Wing Chun form of Kung Fu, until they asked me to do a split. You know, they wanted me to do a split. And they
What's
said,
that mean?
well, you know, when you stretch your legs out, you know.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
They wanted me to do a split. And I was trying to do a split. And then I just got up from doing a split. And I said to the teacher, I can think of no reason why this would help me. Because right now it's just, all it's doing is causing me pain. And of course my thing is called Don't Hurt Me.
Yeah.
And so what do I need to, you know, and so you're able to be pliant, you know. It's like, yeah, well, I can be pliant without necessarily doing a split. I can do it, again, I found out later I could do it using Qi, that I didn't have to, again, I didn't have to stretch my muscles, I just had to. So anyway, enough of me for now.
So do you have anything coming up? Because I know at one point you had, was it a Comic-Con you were going to do or something?
Well, yeah, we did New York Comic Con, where I was the assistant editor of the Atlas comic line 50 years ago, literally 50 years ago. And at the New York Comic Con, they were celebrating the 50th anniversary of Atlas Comics by introducing 4 action figures. One of which is a character I created, the Hands of Kung Fu. I should have brought it over here. I should have one over here, but I have one in the other room. And it's in affiliation with Mego, the toy maker, as well as Walmart. So they brought me in, and I was able to sign the action figures and talk to everybody, and have a reunion with Larry Hama, who was one of our artist writers, and Jeff Rovin, our editor. And it was just great. It was just like, wow, 50 years. Both Jeff and I were looking at each other like, who would have thought?
Yeah.
When we did this 50 years ago, we would be here today, and they're celebrating us. So
That's
yeah,
awesome.
it was super cool.
So anything else, or just kind of taking a break?
I've done so many different things. I'm about to do something I've never done before, so I'm very excited about that. I'm about to do an audiobook, and not one of my books. It's somebody else's book, and they got in touch with me and said, "Could you read the book?" And I went,
Oh, wow.
You want me? And he went, yeah. So we're talking about that next week. I'm talking to the producer about it next week, and that's very exciting because I've never done that before, and that would be really super cool. Now all I have to do is get a video game.
Yeah, the trifecta, right?
Right. And of course, we have the December Action Film Autopsy, where we're going to have December films and more probably Indian stuff on Netflix, and more stuff on Haya, and what else we got? And yeah, so I'm looking forward to that. All right.
Awesome. Well, for me, tomorrow, those that are following me, at 2 p.m. Eastern, I'll be doing my Kaiji Spotlight again with Jedi Grand Veil, and this time we're choosing Jet Jaguar.
Jet Jaguar.
Yeah. And then later on in the evening, I'll be joining Kevin Lambert at Entertainment Headquarters, and we'll be reviewing 1955's Tarantula.
Ooh.
Yeah, so got a couple things in the bag for the weekend, but other than that, just getting ready for my move, and that's it. Anyway,
another company is coming over tomorrow to record me for a box set. I'm doing an interview about Michelle Yeoh.
Oh, that's gonna be sweet.
I know. I'm looking because I know Michelle Yeoh. I'm going to be wearing my official Tomorrow Never Dies jacket.
Oh, nice. So they're doing a box set with her.
No, they're doing a box set. It's another box set of films. It's not the Shaw Brothers films.
Oh, okay, but they just want to ask you about her.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I've got bad news for them. I'm also going to talk about Jet Li. So because they can't stop me. They don't have to use the footage, but they can't stop me from talking about Jet.
You'll at least have it archived. Well, thank you again for joining me, and again, thank you to Samurai to allow me.
Thank you for hosting. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I enjoy it. It's a lot of fun. I love your knowledge on everything. So,
oh, sweet, thanks, man.
No problem. All right, everyone. If you have not before, make sure you remember this, please.
You want a piece of me?
You want a piece of me?
You want a piece of me?
Oh, you want a piece of me? You want a piece of me?
You want a piece of me?
You got it! Get a piece of Rick.
Yeah, I heard from the guys that they sold a lot of stuff this previous month, and I attribute that to you.
Really?
And your audience, because before that, we've been doing the same thing on Fat Samurai Show, and it's sort of like the selling had leveled off. But I think you brought a new audience in there, and they
I hope so. I mean,
thank you very much. I owe you a lunch. Yeah.
I owe you a lunch.
Let's give each other lunch.
Yeah. Yeah, we work like that. That's how we work.
We're watching Wicked.
Right. Exactly.
Wicked
and Necco's gonna be like, "You guys, shut up! I want to watch this."
Bring me to the best movie theater in your part of Maryland. I'll bring you to the best movie theater in my part of Connecticut. And we'll
I have to try to find that because I don't know if it's in Baltimore, but they have some nice ones. It just might be in different areas.
I grew up in Baltimore.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You told me that.
The first 3 years, yeah. All right. Well, enough of that. We've 1 minute away from going 90 minutes. So do you want to talk for a minute or let's get out of here? Leave these poor people alone.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Hit the like and subscribe button. If you have any comments, questions, even for Rick, I can pass them along or he can read them whenever he's looking on there. But thanks again. See you guys later and enjoy the rest of your weekend.
You see me for